Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Other Choice podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today with me, my guest is Rachel Schroder.
Thank you so much for having me, Tiffany. I'm really excited to be able to be here with you all.
Of course, thank you so much for being on this episode. For those of you watching this episode, you may have noticed our backdrop looks a little bit different than our normal podcast studio because we actually just finished our state conference in Owasso, Michigan. Yes, and it's been an incredible day. It was an amazing event. We had amazing workshops and amazing speakers, and Rachel was one of them. And just to inform some of our viewers on what you spoke about today, I want to know, can you give us a little background of your international work with the youth and just all the amazing pro-life work you've been doing around the world?
Yes, well, I began in the pro-life movement like basically anybody else in the pro-life movement, volunteering at my local pro-life organization and just volunteering, stamping envelopes. Even as a child, as I think many of us did with our families, went to the National March for Life, which a few years I got to go to in DC, but most of the years just in my home state. And I think that's where everything starts, right? And then when I was a little bit older, I got the chance to travel with a group called Pro Life Global, which is an international Christian nonprofit which raises up student leaders around the world to be our modern day lifesavers. And we train these students how to form pro life teams on their college campuses, in their high schools, and in their communities, teaching them how to have persuasive and compassionate pro life conversations and be the voice of life and the friend that walks along with women who find themselves pregnant there in their own cities in developing nations.
That's amazing work that you've been doing, and it's so inspiring hearing how much the youth are moving and joining in the pro-life movement. I want to know, I know you mentioned you've done work in India and South America with raising, like you said, those pro-life teams. What is a story that's really stuck with you and just moved you that you won't ever forget?
Yes, well, I am inspired by one of my friends in India, and I told this story actually at the conference this morning. Um, she is a young working class girl in her 20s, newly married, and she works at the pregnancy center in Bangalore, India. And she told us that one day this woman came to their center and mentioned that she was facing an unplanned pregnancy. And she had to get an abortion because she simply could not afford to feed an extra mouth. I mean, we're talking about a country where like a cup of coffee is 15 cents, like just extreme poverty. And she just didn't see a way forward. And my friend said to her, we don't know where the money's going to come from, but like we're just going to choose to trust God in this moment, and we're going to help you. We will pay for you to take care of your child until your child is 18 years old.
Wow.
And after this woman chose life and had her baby, she said, after, holding my unborn baby, I realized I want to try to take care of this baby myself. I think we can do it. And this is a place in which I think God just moved her heart to see in herself her capacity to grow and sacrifice and love and be creative in finding a way to care for a new life that she just didn't see in herself before she said yes to hope.
Yeah, that's such an incredible story. And hearing you just tell that to all of the people who were at conference today, I can tell it moved a lot of people and it touched a lot of hearts as well. I want to know, what are some of the biggest challenges that the youth in the pro-life movement and just people in the pro-life movement are facing in these other countries that you've seen that maybe people wouldn't expect or realize?
Yes, so I was surprised to learn these numbers myself about a year and a half ago. So 97% of abortions take place outside US borders, but only 3% of funds in the pro-life movement are used outside of US borders. And I think that just when we come to face something like that, you are able to expect, in principle, certain challenges. But I was able to kind of see these challenges firsthand and how sacrificial the pro life communities are in in developing countries. There's this family I stayed with in Cartagena, Colombia, and this family had almost nothing, but they hosted myself and my mission partner in their home. It was a 2.5 room house, and they gave us the one, like, actually closed off bedroom that attached to the alley without a lock, in Cartagena, Colombia. And so, as an American, I'm kind of a little bit shocked by, the difference in accommodations that I would maybe otherwise be used to. But actually in that moment, rather than discouraging me, it opened my eyes to see just how beautiful the international pro-life movement is. So, I mean, even though we were taking our showers with a trash can full of water and a plastic bowl that we would use to just pour the water over our heads, we'd refill the trash can, that the family would refill the trash can about every week. This family was giving everything that they had to serve these people who were coming from the United States to help them to start a pro-life movement in their country. And as I was leaving, this was the night before our flight left Cartagena, I complimented the dress that the mom was wearing. She had this very simple, like pink and yellow dress. And I just, was wanting to be kind and just express my just so genuine gratitude for the ministry that they showed us. And I made a comment about how beautiful her dress was. And when she was getting ready for bed that night, she took off her dress and she said, "I'm going to wash this for you tomorrow so you can bring it home with you." Aww. And I mean, for the record, I didn't take, what was one of comparatively few articles of clothing that she had.
Yeah.
But what I did bring home with me was that witness to sacrificial love, from this place of really wanting to serve people who are saving lives. And this family is now my inspiration to give and to not count costs.
I love that story so much, and I love the term sacrificial love that you used. I feel like sacrificial love and generosity is really what's at the heart of just the pro-life movement in general and everyone working in it. And just being able to see that on a world level, not even just around here. I'm used to seeing people in Michigan and the people I work with at Right to Life and the people who we interact with. But yeah, it's just really inspiring hearing what's going on in other countries and other areas. When you start these teams of youth for the pro-life movement, what is the first thing that you teach them, and what would you say is the most important thing to get them to learn?
Yes, well, we see their relationship with Christ as actually the foundation for their pro-life work. So we begin all of our workshops. We do 2-day workshops called Lifesaver Practicums, where we teach students what abortion is, God's plan for true love and marriage, the dangers of hormonal birth control and in vitro fertilization, and the abortifacient aspects of both practices, and how to have persuasive pro-life conversations. We go out into the streets with these students and help them to form a pro-life team. But what we see as preeminent, as necessary in order for them to do that work, is to understand the value of their own lives as individuals created in the image and likeness of God. So we begin these workshops in prayer, and I think when you understand the value of your own life, it becomes so obvious why it's important to fight for the value of the lives of others. Mm-hmm. And during our workshop in Cartagena, actually, we trained 100 high schoolers to be able to start a pro-life team in their school. And during the outreach portion of the event, one of the students found out that his father had been shot in the street that day. And a social worker came to the school where this workshop was happening and talked with the student, and it was a horrible, horrible situation. I've never seen anything like this happen at an event like this. It was truly tragic. The shooting was, of course, completely separate from anything we were doing, but Cartagena is a very dangerous city, and his father had been murdered in the street. But our response, I think, was what speaks into the importance of knowing the value of our own lives and the value of each individual life that is lost in our motivation for pro-life work, because we got together, all of these students, and we prayed for their family. And I just remember in that moment, I mean, it was a whole group. We're in this outdoor pavilion, and we're, praying. And I realized that if this is truly how tragic one life lost is, then how much harder should we be fighting to save the lives of the millions that are lost around the world, the 73 million babies who are lost to abortion every single year in our world?
It's so eye-opening hearing those numbers, of hearing in all of these countries together what's going on just outside of our own personal lives and the people that we know, that 73 million lives are lost a year. And it really makes you think about the importance of the pro-life movement, and that the work that we're doing, everything that we contribute to this movement helps, and it is making a difference, even if it's just saving one life.
Yes.
And like you just mentioned, in this story that you told, that you prayed with these students for this boy who lost a father. He lost a very close person to him, and that was your first response, which is great, that faith was your first thought, and to go to God with those types of situations. You've seen the spiritual battle in the pro-life movement firsthand, and I want to know what keeps you spiritually grounded when you feel like you're being tested, or you're going through those trials or those hard things that we see in the world.
Well, I think that in the pro-life movement, we need to see this effort as fundamentally radical. Radical in the sense that we are doing this from the roots. That's what the word radical means. And what are our roots? For me, my faith in Christ is my root in the pro-life movement. That is why I'm able to continue the work that I do. And so I see myself in the spirit of missionary martyrdom. Missionary in the sense that the work that we are doing is evangelization. By opposing abortion, we are actually speaking into the truth and sharing the truth that each individual person is made in the image and likeness of God. So even the baby that's sick, even the baby that's disabled, is just as worthy of our love, because he or she has the same creator as everybody else. And martyrdom in the sense that this work is sacrificial, and sometimes we have to place the needs of these communities above our own, whether that's through making financial sacrifices. In my situation, which is maybe not as typical of pro-life advocates, sometimes going to countries that don't have the same level of security as we have in the United States. I can think of 2 occasions in which, because of fear, I have rethought going to a country, but chosen to go anyway, and seen God's faithfulness and provision in keeping me safe in a place that a normal person shouldn't go, right? Like Cartagena, Colombia, or, traveling to third world countries that don't have fresh water.
Yeah. I heard something recently that, like you said, going and doing something even though you may be fearful, that courage is doing something even when you're afraid, because it's the right thing to do. And you know that in your heart. And that's definitely what you just described, and having the courage to go out and to make a positive impact when lots of times there is martyrdom, and lots of people are persecuted for their faith and their beliefs, but we fight the good fight anyway, because we know it's right. So I have another question for you. Sometimes it can feel really difficult for the youth to stand up and be pro-life, whether that be because of people not agreeing with them, or like you mentioned earlier, sometimes it's the fear that holds us back from doing the thing that we know is right. What advice would you give young people who may be wanting to be pro-life and they feel like they're in a situation where they can't be?
I think I would say 3 things. 1, education, imitation, and activation. So first, you need to know the issue. And I know that you guys have a great campaign at Michigan Right to Life, My Gen Leads, where you all go to the college campuses and you give information, true information, to correct the false information that people are being given on college campuses about their options when it comes to unplanned pregnancy. Teaching them that abortion is not the only option, and these are the better alternatives that are more compassionate and more hopeful, that you will be more pleased to choose should you find yourself in an unplanned pregnancy like this. And we're here to walk with you, and we are here to help you to navigate that choice, which is a really hard choice for each woman to make. So it's important to educate ourselves on the issue of abortion. So reaching out to rtl.org and getting connected with the resources that are there in terms of information and education. But second, I think we need imitation. I would really, really encourage people who want to become involved in the pro-life movement to find a mentor who is doing the type of pro-life work that you are interested in. When I was 12 years old and wanted to get involved in the pro-life movement, my role model was Lila Rose, because she started live action when she was a 14-year-old in her parents' living room. Yep. And I thought, I can be active, I can make a difference. If she can make a difference, I can make a difference. And I'm so glad that I just hung on to that hope. But then as I've gotten older, I've actually never met Lila Rose in person, which is a very, very interesting thing to think about, because she was my first motivation. But I've become friends with other pro-life leaders who have been able to walk with me and to help me to become a pro-life leader myself in this movement. And then I would say activation, though, is the bread and butter. We can't fight this fight alone. And the organization Pro-Life Global, which is raising up these student leaders around the world, relies on this idea that you must unite with your community in order to save lives. Really inspired by the story of Ruth in the Bible, who, when she discovered that the Jewish community was going to be killed, that her people were going to be killed, she got the Jewish community together to pray and fast before she went to the king to advocate for their lives. So as we are trying to advocate for the lives of the unborn who are being killed, we too need to unite in prayer, fasting, and action in order to save their lives. And so that's why we help students form pro-life teams in their schools of 3 or more. You can't do it alone. And then together you can go to the sidewalk, you can do sidewalk counseling, you can set up a table on campus and inform your community about the options that are available for women, that there is another choice, and that other choice is life. And also being involved in political movements too, like knocking doors and uniting in the community to stand for life at every level, local, state, national. And so I would say, know that you're not alone. You're not the only one who wants to be active in this movement to save lives, and you can do it.
That is an amazing answer, and I agree with everything that you said. And I love how you mentioned find a mentor. Find someone who can walk alongside you and also help you in this work, because it's true, you can't do it alone. It takes so many people coming together and just going out and spreading a message as far as we can reach. And like you mentioned earlier, My Gen Leads, at Right to Life of Michigan, we do have our youth outreach program, and that is called My Gen Leads. We're going to high school campuses and college campuses, and yes, we're just providing a source of true information for young girls and young fathers who may be experiencing not knowing what to do with an unplanned pregnancy. So you can find more information about that at rtl.org. And also, there are lots of ways that you can get involved. Like you said, there's always volunteering. Also, if you go to our website at rtl.org, you can click that volunteer tab, and we can connect you with a local affiliate. In Michigan, we actually have over 80 affiliates for all of Right to Life in Michigan. So yes, we have many counties and areas who are all supporting and joining in this movement for life.
Very exciting.
This fight for life. What differences have you noticed in how young people in other countries versus in the U.S. are responding to being told about the pro-life movement?
Well, that's a great question because it cuts straight to the heart of the matter. The reality is that the United States is the model of the pro-life movement. And so any differences that we see largely are these countries trying to catch up to where we are in the establishment of so many pro-life groups, so much cultural infrastructure to defend life from the moment of conception. And I don't say this in a way to flatter the pro-life movement in the United States. It was shown to me so clearly in the testimonies of these students in other countries themselves. They are following the pro-life movement to a T in the US. They know everything that we're doing. They're following our pro-life influencers. In India, our main pro-life leader there was proudly showing off the little plastic wristbands that he had ordered to display the pro-life message because he had seen them used at a pro-life conference in the United States.
Oh.
So that is a huge responsibility for us because what we are doing is being replicated. And so we need to be leaders worthy of replication. And something that is also important to note from a historical standpoint, the pro-life movements around the world are about 20 to 30 years delayed from the United States. So in the United States, our sexual revolution, which spurred this terrible culture of death in the United States. So where we see our country is where these other countries may be in 20 to 30 years down the road. That is also why it's so important to go to these countries now before Planned Parenthood and Planned Parenthood friends around the world are able to get those messages to them first, because there is so much less cultural saturation of the fight between pro-life and so-called pro-choice in these other countries. Here, if you ask someone on a college campus their opinion about abortion, they will probably tell you every talking point, every focus group tested pro-abortion motto. But there, people are a little bit more fresh-minded. And you certainly do see woke ideology permeating these cultures, not to the intricate degree that we see it on US college campuses. So we need to get there now. The clock is ticking.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for being on today's episode.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm your host, Tiffany, and until next time, this is The Other Choice.